welcome back to another episode of the IgniteU NY Podcast powered by NYSTEC. I'm your host, Shay Brown, and today we're diving into a topic that is not only timely, but also critical for small businesses: tariffs. Before I introduce our guest for today, I want to emphasize that the opinion of our speaker today is not representative of NYSTEC. Joining me today is someone who brings both insight and experience to the table. Director of Government Affairs, Francis Palasieski of the American Building Materials Alliance. With years of hands-on experience helping small businesses navigate the complex world of tariffs, Francis brings a wealth of knowledge to our conversation. Francis, thank you so much for being here today.
Hi, Shay. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Can you give us a little background about yourself?
Sure. So, like you said, I'm the Director of Government Affairs for the American Building Materials Alliance. We represent 1,000 small, or a little more than 1,000 small, locally owned businesses all over the Northeast and the Southeast. They're primarily retailers for building materials.
What do you mean by supporting these small businesses? Can you go into that?
Sure. So we're a trade association, and what we do is we leverage the size of our industry, even though they're all small businesses, into one voice. So on my end, we're in government affairs, and we represent the industry before government. We provide regulatory guidance for compliance to our small businesses and help them navigate complex problems and issues like trade policy.
So can you explain a little bit more about what a trade organization is?
Sure. So a trade organization is a group of businesses that get together to leverage the power of multiple voices altogether. And that could be for government affairs, or it could be for services like leveraging your size for better insurance premiums or credit card fees. The association is able to negotiate these on behalf of the small businesses and also provide other services like continuing education and things like that that are essential to small businesses where they might not have those services available to them otherwise.
Okay, so Francis, you have a lot of experience then and background in all of this. Can you explain what tariffs are then and how they typically function in a global trade system?
Sure. So tariffs are a government policy that can be used to drive different economic outcomes. They can change supply chains, they can change pricing, they can protect businesses locally, and they can also create a large deal of uncertainty particularly for small businesses that might not be very familiar with trade policy.
Uncertainty, that's a unique word in this kind of industry. Can you explain what that means?
Sure. So uncertainty, particularly with the tariffs that we saw in the beginning before there was a policy in place, the uncertainty came in the form of unpredictable price increases or customers changing their patterns of how they purchase, when they're going to purchase. Supply chains also started moving almost immediately. The availability of supplies, when you can order it, and things like that all started changing immediately. And so that was uncertainty for small businesses, right? They couldn't give an accurate quote, for a product because prices were changing so quickly.
And that can be really detrimental for a small business because you may not have the funds to be able to flex like that and to be able to manage a situation like that. So can you then explain historically how the U.S. government has used tariffs and how small businesses have navigated that historically?
Sure. So historically, tariffs have been used for a whole different it's a tool that can be used for many different applications. And it can protect American businesses from foreign competition, particularly when they're engaged in unfair competition. And it can also affect manufacturing, where those jobs are. We saw in our industry, there's been longstanding tariffs on lumber from Canada. And we've seen sawmills move across the border to America to get competitive pricing because the tariffs are more competitive for them to be in America. So in that situation, it was a long-term policy that actually had a positive outcome for manufacturing.
Right. That's great. So there are a lot of positive changes that can come with tariffs. And now we understand uncertainty, but we were talking off screen a little bit here, and you were saying that, things are kind of evening out with the uncertainty. So you want to explain that a little bit for us, like where we're at currently with
Sure.
policies?
So in the beginning, the talk about tariffs was what created the uncertainty. There wasn't a clear path of what those would look like, how much they would be, when they'd be implemented, and on what industry. Now we have a clear 10% tariff globally, with some exceptions. So like a benefit of being part of a trade association, lumber products are exempted, which are the products our members sell, and that was a function of the government affairs program. We made the case that these really shouldn't be included, and we're able to win that. But then on the compliance side, we also offer guidance on that. So we had small businesses who are members call up saying, hey, I have suppliers in Indonesia saying there's a tariff on this decking that I'm purchasing, but you guys let us know that it's exempt. And we were able to point them in the right direction to make sure that that tariff wasn't levied on the product that they were trying to purchase.
That's excellent. That's such an invaluable service to look for as a small business. Getting with an organization like yours, or at least communicating with an organization like yours to navigate this right now is like very valuable, is what I'm hearing from you. And it sounds like that was a recent thing that you kind of went through with the decking. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was just a couple of weeks ago. It was a local supplier in Rhode Island. They've been there, family-owned business for over 100 years. And it was the difference of 30% on the product, right? So knowing that trade policy and having that resources being part of a trade association can provide you the competitive advantage. That could be the difference between whether your product is priced competitively or not.
Yeah. And I think the advantage, as a small business owner, I am not one, but I know that they are constantly under duress. They're doing a lot of work all the time. You're working with minimal means a lot of the time. So aligning yourself with an alliance that might have information that you just don't have access to, or you haven't heard about, oh my goodness, what a game changer that would be, especially when it comes to the tariffs right now. Following up on the supply chains and the pricing strategies for small businesses, how do tariffs impact this?
Tariffs immediately impact supply chains and pricing because they levy a tax essentially on the goods coming in over borders. So you immediately see price changes. And in a lot of cases, the market will try to price it in before they're even in effect. We saw that. We did a nationwide survey before the tariffs went into effect in March, and 80% of suppliers said they'd already raised prices in anticipation.
Wow. And that probably was an impact with the uncertainty of the market, right, at the time, or no?
Yes, that's definitely part of the uncertainty because now the price was factored in before the tariff even went into effect. So what will that look like post-tariff? Do the prices continue climbing? We heard from a lot of our folks, while lumber will probably stabilize, other manufactured goods, they really never come down. They saw that with the pandemic. Once the price is already included, they don't stabilize and come back down. And so that's a problem for consumers, but also for small business because the cost of doing business just got more expensive.
Right. Yeah, well, like you were saying, with policies at least coming into place now, we can start making plans as small businesses with how we're going to adapt to these price increases, correct?
Right. And that's what we kept hearing. While tariffs can be difficult to navigate, having a solid policy in place at least would allow them to plan.
Yeah.
So for 2 months while we were in flux, you couldn't really create a plan of how to deal with that and move forward with your business.
Yeah.
But now that the tariffs are in place and we have a clear policy, businesses can move forward and adapt.
What are then some practical steps that small businesses can take right now to mitigate the impacts of tariffs?
Practical steps would be familiarizing yourself with trade policy. It could be the difference between whether your product is competitively priced or not competitively priced. It could also be the difference between unknowingly paying a tariff that may not exist because there is confusion. It is a new policy. Some suppliers are unaware, manufacturers, of exactly what products are tariffed and what aren't. So we found that is really the best thing you can do to equip yourself going forward, especially with it being a rapid change. It's not a slow change, and a lot of people aren't familiar with what tariffs are.
Yeah. And again, if you just don't have the time because you're a small business owner, you're doing a lot all the time, how are you going to know about all of these changes that are kind of coming down the pike right now? And so aligning yourself with an organization like yourself really will get them their best foot forward during this very interesting change in manufacturing in America.
Yeah, being part of a trade association is very helpful because we're there for the members. The things that we offer guidance on, the issues that we tackle, are identified by the members. We're a member-driven organization. And so the issues that they're facing that they may not be able to dig into as small business owners, we're able to help them out with that. Whether it's tariffs or leveraging our size for better health insurance premiums for their employees, products and services like that. That is what a trade association provides to their members.
What are you then seeing from your current members with navigating these tariffs right now?
So currently, after the tariffs have gone into effect, our members have buckled down and started creating plans on how to deal with the tariffs in effect. A large majority of our products are exempt, as I did mention, and that was, basically a great win for the association through the government affairs program. But a number of them aren't. We sell everything from doors, windows, fasteners, hardware. It's not just lumber. And those products, some of them have all types of different tariffs levied on them. It's not a uniform number. So it is a lot to navigate. And they've been mapping it out. And there's a lot of price changes coming. But at least they can sit down and plan. That's where they're at.
What else do you do for your members?
Sure. So we offer a range of services for members, whether it's continuing education for the workforce, leveraging better pricing for essential products like insurance, credit card processing. And we also offer one of our most popular services are business roundtables, where non-competing small businesses all get together, sit down for a day. They talk about the issues they're facing and how they're tackling them. Basically workshop it out. And it is wildly helpful from what we hear. And they go over pricing margins, supply chain issues, everyday things that they're facing and how their peers that are non-competitors are addressing them.
Probably in those roundtables, many of them realize how many of them share similar problems to one another, and to be able to help each other in that kind of way by either one having had the experience themselves, or maybe somebody they know has had that experience and they're able to share it with somebody who is struggling. I think that that's an amazing benefit to any small business. Yeah.
Exactly, and they can't get enough of it.
Yeah.
We wish we could do more of them.
Oh, I'm sure you do wish you could do more of them. Oh, that's great, though. That's really good to hear. So if you had any advice for small businesses to kind of future-proof their business operations against tariffs, what would that be?
I would recommend small businesses to join a trade association, educate themselves on trade policy, and watch out for the uncertainty, because trade policy is still evolving, and that can change daily pricing, supply chains, and how they do business. It could be the difference between being competitive and being behind.
Francis, you've given us such great insight today. Thank you so much. Guys, that's a wrap for this episode of IgniteU New York, our podcast powered by NYSTEC. A big thank you to Director of Government Affairs, Francis Palasieski, for joining us and sharing such valuable information on tariffs and their impacts on small businesses. If you found today's discussion helpful, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, and leave a comment. We would love to hear from our listeners. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Shay Brown, and we will catch you next time.